The first question I want to ask you is how did you start training dogs?
Well, I guess I will go into a bit of an origin story, but I know that that could take probably a whole entire hour, so I'm going to try to keep it brief. But just before I finished school, I had an incident. I got attacked and I was stabbed, and that was obviously a pretty tough time for me. Obviously, transitioning into the real world from school to life, and then going through that bit of an episode, obviously left me in a bit of a position of darkness, but also for growth. And probably about a year after, or maybe just under a year after I just got back from a long trip away with a friend, my parents bought me a dog. He's a little Australian Kelpie. His name was Rocky, and the dog was amazing. I've never had a dog before that. I've always had been interested in animals and always had a cat growing up, and I always wanted a dog, but my parents knew that I was probably too young for me to have a responsibility before school. So the timing was right. But this dog just changed my life. He just enhanced everything about how I saw myself and how I saw the world around me. And yeah, and he radically created some different perspective. And I think it was in a time where I really needed that perspective. But he was a year and a half old and he was diagnosed with leukemia. So he ended up passing away like within a month of the diagnosis. So that was pretty rough for me. More suffering then
Yeah.
than I did when I had my own dramas. So that's when I kind of realized how much I could need a dog in my life. So after a month of a bit of grieving and mourning, I'm like, no, we need another dog. So I went to the shelter. I got a little Kelpie cross lab. His name was Ace, and I was studying building at the time, and I was also working at the race course here, like as a groundsman. So that was my job, and that was like the direction I was going. And I just had these feelings that I wanted to do something a little bit different with my path, and I didn't want to. And I wasn't really certainly passionate about building, but I just thought, oh well, I guess I was dumb at school, and I'll get into a trade, and if I can get into a trade, then maybe I could excel somewhere there because my it's something about school that if you're not performing well, I guess you feel inadequate, you feel stupid, you feel whatever. So that can kind of crush your dreams and your goals a little bit because no one, like, I just didn't feel like I had like decent support from school. Obviously, school is school, and a lot of my support came from home, which I'll get to in a sec. But I ended up, I'm like, you know what? I want to work with animals at the beginning, rather. I wanted to work with big cats and lions and tigers and
Yeah.
let's work in a zoo and I guess
Right.
that's like a typical sort of place to go. But I ended up quitting my job and quitting TAFE, and I just volunteered at the shelter, the local shelter. I thought get in there somewhere, and I was just cleaning kennels, helping walk dogs. I ended up getting offered a job there, and then I went to animal studies so I can learn some of the introductory stuff, just so I can get working in anything in the animal industry at home. And then everyone just used to comment on how much I used to have a connection with the dogs, some sort of talent. I didn't even know dog trainers existed, but they're like, you should be a dog trainer. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. And one thing led to another, and I found that, it was a thing. And I wasn't researching, I wasn't looking anything up. It was all from feel. I was just with dogs, teaching them how to behave, walk, and I just thought, I'm going to pursue this a little bit more deeper. So I ended up getting a qualification from the National Dog Trainers Federation, the NDTF, and that's a certificate 4 in dog behavior, and a certificate 3 in dog behavior and training. And I ended up getting a job at a couple of different places, like dog boarding facilities and doggy daycares. And I was just getting my feel for kennel life. And one of the boarding facilities I was working at, we were going through all the motions, teaching dogs how to loose leash walk, sit down, calm, all that sort of jazz. And I thought, but like, can we do this outside of the boarding facility? Can we like do this out in the street? Can we go to the local shops? Like, what's the point of doing it here where, first of all, we don't even have the owners here and the dog hasn't had any like decent distractions? But that was against the cards. Obviously, you have to run a business, and we've got 35 to 55 dogs to train, and there's 3 trainers. Guys, we can't be driving around taking dogs out and outings and stuff, and the place that I was at was quite commercial. It was like pump the dogs out, get through it, tick off everything off the to-do list. It was very kind of clinical. And I
Yeah.
thought, man, it has to be definitely has to be better ways than this. So I ended up leaving there, going back to the shelter, and then literally just making business cards. And then anyone who purchased
Very
a
good.
dog, I'd give them a card and say, hey, I've been working with the dog. We could do some training. And and that's where I started. And I was around 21 when that happened. And in that in that process, I was still hindered because I was like thinking, how do I know how to do this full time?
Yeah.
It's a bit scary, everything else. For me, I was young. I lived at home. I didn't have any overheads. I didn't have rent to pay. So I was in a position where I could, risk things. So I didn't leave the shelter, but we had a fallout, and actually a fallout due to ideologies, philosophy of training, techniques. And I think we clashed and butted heads. And maybe I was starting to outgrow the space as well, because I entered there knowing zero about the difference of any dog breed. Like, I mean, like I was fully fresh, fully green. Um, I knew what a German Shepherd was. I didn't even know what a Staffy would be. Like, I didn't like names for dogs. There was like, I was just fully naive, right?
Yeah.
To going to a place where I'm telling them now how to do things. I guess maybe after a couple of years, I outgrow that space. So they basically, and then I told them I wanted to go from part time to a casual position, so that way there I could be a little bit more flexible with my time, so I can grow my business. And the rules here in Australia is that if you're a part time, you have to give somebody like adequate notice before you don't give them any shifts. Where
Yeah.
with a casual, there's no rule. It's like, oh, one of the guys there. Again, I'm obviously not saying any names or any places just so it don't trigger too many people. But he was like, I'll let you know about next week. And I'm like, dude, I've been here for so long. What are you saying? You'll let me know about next week? Like, I've just came here yesterday. I'm like, are you letting me go? And he's like, well, and I'm like, oh, that's crazy. And I got so worked up. I got so emotional. Like, I was really pissed off that was the way that they wanted to go about it. But the funny thing, and the reason why I say this is, literally the day after, I had no other job except for now, my own work,
Your business.
Nooches Pooches. It was like the phone started ringing. It was like the universe knew. It was like, look, see, you were supposed to leave the shelter 6 months ago. You've been saying that, but now you hadn't. And now you were forced out. But that was what was necessary for growth. You need to leave room open,
The
and
timing was perfect then.
timing was perfect. And also it was perfect in regards to, even my mentors that were training me then would say, don't get into dog training like full time. There's no money in dog training. And that was 12 years ago. And now it's like, what are you talking about? Everyone wants to be a dog
Yeah.
trainer. So I think I got into it at the right time where it was starting to become a thing. So I was able to gain a little bit more traction and and get get clientele and get into the nitty gritty of dog training. Yeah.
Build your career. Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
So when you decided to stop going to school and you wanted to start working with animals, that decision you make had something to do with Rocky?
Yeah. And I didn't leave school. I finished school. So I finished in year
Oh,
12.
you finished
Yeah.
school. And when you had a Rocky, did you train him?
Look, I think any moment you're spending with the dog, you're training them. So, yes, I trained him in what I wanted him to do, but there was no training. Like, I didn't teach him any commands, maybe to sit.
Yeah.
And I would have been like, come here, but not teach a recall. Just like, hey, you, come here now.
Yeah. That's the
If he pulled on the leash, he'd get in trouble by me just being an 18-year-old boy and just probably yelling at him and getting all frustrated. Like, hey, dude, stop pulling on that leash. And I was, again, this is a long time ago with no experience, no technique that I use now, but I my timing was really good when I was young. However, my intensity was probably a little bit too much. So, so he was probably a little bit insecure of me at times, only
Thanks.
because I had no idea. But
Yeah.
in saying that, the dog like was obsessed by me. I was obsessed by him. I cared about him. I loved him. So I wasn't like abusing him or anything. It would just
Yeah.
be that you pull on and I had him on a harness, I guess. So if he or on a collar. So if he pulled, I would just like yank, obviously give a leash correction, so I'd know what the word is now. I'd give a leash correction and just get in his face and be like, "Stop pulling, man! You're annoying me." and then, I guess he just understood. Well, that's all very aversive. I'm just going to avoid that. I'm just going to walk next to the guy. Again, a very intelligent dog. He spent most of his time off the leash. He responded to commands. He'd spend a lot of time with us everywhere we went. Me and the boys, everywhere we would hang out. people were like, "What do you mean you didn't bring Rocky?" So he spent a lot of time with us, and again, as I said, we were young, so obviously I had to go to work, so he wasn't with me at work. But
Yeah,
the boys would like when he started getting really sick. While I was at work, my mates would go to my house and take Rocky out to Coogee or to the beach and take him out places because they knew he was sick and he was dying, and that they
yeah,
wanted to spend time with him. So he had a profound effect on all of us,
that's
and
cool.
that incident that happened to me like affected all of us as well. It was quite shell shock. So I think the dog really did bring some healing and some perspective to the whole entire group of us, not just me.
The reason that I ask you that question is because some trainers get into dog training because they have a regret with their first dog, maybe that they didn't train him properly or nothing
Hmm.
like that. So my question is, did you have any regret with Rocky?
Look, it was a long time ago, and when I met him, he was already around 6 months old.
Okay.
So, and I was super young. So there wasn't like the memories that I have of him were all very good stuff.
So
So I guess I don't have any regret. Uh, but life took him super early and,
yeah,
and, and screwed me up. So I guess if I had a little, like, if I could speak about Ace, which I would say I got him, he was around 9 weeks old from the shelter, and he passed away around 9 years old. And I'd say that I would have more of a memory of processes and regrets. I think just with Ace because he lived a full life with me. Where with Rocky, it was like a dream. Like it was, he was.
was
I
so
have like
fun.
no. He was like a. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. So 2 weeks before, so I got everything crashing around me now.
So good.
2 weeks before Rocky was diagnosed, my dad was just taking a photo of the sunset. So we live across the road of the bay. So there's a little park across the road. My dad was taking a photo of the sunset, and he didn't realize
Wow.
Rocky jumped into that photo. But not only did he jump in the photo, but like if I can get this up close without the light glimmering, you can
Yeah,
hardly see. He's like standing literally in the middle of the ray.
yeah, that's insane.
Just epic stuff. And that was and my dad was only when he was reviewing the photo, he's like, "Hey, Rocky was in the photo. How cool is that?" Anyway, and then we find out he was really sick, and it was almost like, and this is my philosophy, this is my thoughts, and this is how I think and operate. Is he is a part of me, or a relative of me, or something of me from the astral realm, from something past this from the spiritual world, where it was
Yeah,
almost like I come to you to show you something, but I'm only here for a brief moment just to get you on the path because I have to go back to source. I'm not even supposed to be here. I pulled some strings to get here. You
I
know,
see.
you
I,
know what I mean. That's how I when and it was pretty cool because my parents like put that on a canvas and gave it to me, and it was only that realization kind of came only later when I was just reflecting on it, thinking you had made a profound effect on the things around me. So there's no regret because it was nothing that like it was perfect. It was crazy. It was literally
yeah,
perfect.
that photo is that's insane. That's the
Yeah.
only way to describe it. Insane.
Yeah.
So you would say the success that you have right now is because of Rocky?
Yeah, success is a big word, eh? And it's pretty, but let's just say because obviously I don't just measure like my success by the career that I do or the things that I have, but obviously like the life that I have and the perspective that I have and the people in my life and things like that. I would say that Rocky definitely led to my own success, not just because he got me interested and participating within the dog industry, but also because he just brought some heavy awareness to myself. Like he taught me a lot about my things. So yeah, for sure. If I could think about some regrets, maybe when I lose my shit and get really angry and have a temper, maybe I would be a little bit too unfair to him. Just because I wasn't just being unfair to him, but I would be unfair to my parents and to my
Very much.
sister and to myself. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was almost like he gave me the opportunity to look within, to be like, hey dude, you're acting like a monkey and I don't like to be around you right now. I'm gonna walk downstairs and hang out with mum because you're an asshole right now. And then I'll be like, oh, I fucking really upset him. That sucks. See, like with a person, if I triggered them, they would they just talk back and say some other shit to make me hurt.
Yeah.
Where like a dog would be like, I can't believe you did that. That was really shit. That was really unfair. And I'd be like, oh no, I don't want you to be upset with me. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? So, and also, like, if there was any regret, yeah, for sure. Maybe I would have been too intense
Yeah.
with my temper. You know, and I think that was a common theme, just in general, just in my own personal life, which I feel like I'm heaps better with now
Mm.
because of dogs and because of my journey. So yeah, I think Rocky was definitely responsible for a lot of my success, not just within work and career life, but within my own personal life too.
Yeah. Oh, that's no tonic.
Yeah, I was with James Smith yesterday training his dog, and he gave
Oh,
me and he gave me some cans. I was like, "Yeah, buddy."
I also bought some. Well, they're sold out here in the U.S., but I also got it. This very
Oh,
good one.
really? Well,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
yeah, he had a couple of extras, so and I was like, "Oh, can I have one?" Like for the drive home, so he gave me a few. And cool guy, him and his wife and his dog Alfie. He's got a kelpie as well, and obviously you probably know. And yeah, that was really good. But the drink's awesome. Really, I'm only like a quarter through, so I should have had this maybe half an hour before our session today, just so I was switched on
Yeah,
because I'm not really the most intense morning person. Most of the thing that
yeah.
most of my gears start grinding throughout the day. So if I am a little bit slow, then I apologize.
No, it's a
New,
good.
new
You're
tonic will kick in soon.
so now talking about the people that you have met because of the dog training of social media, I would say. Would
Hmm.
you say that's part of your success, or that's just like something you don't pay attention to it?
Look, obviously, social media has an opportunity for us to connect and to share and to do things like this where we can offer advice because there's a lot of crazy conflicting, polarizing advice within everything, but everything's politicized. Anywhere there's human beings, there's going to be politics. But the dog training industry is very politicized. So having an option where I could express, hey, look, this is how I think and feel about situations, this is my experience, is what I advise and recommend. And then having like, people sharing a like mind, or even someone who's going, hey, I don't really necessarily agree with that. Let's have the conversation. That's where I think that social media piece really helps. Obviously, I've been posting videos on my YouTube channel since I first started, and like I don't really have like I wouldn't say I'm super successful within that. I would really like my social media presence to for me to lift my game in that space,
Yeah,
just to keep up with the times, because far out, it's rapidly growing and you got to keep up with it. And it's really hard, being a business owner, to keep up with every single thing
yeah,
of your life, not to mention your business life. There's so many different moving parts. So, but in regards to like how I get work. So like I've been full time running Nooches Pooches since 2012, and I started it in November 2011. So I was basically like 6 months or maybe around about 6 months where I wasn't full time. I was still working at the shelter and other places. So, but since 2012, I haven't had any other job except for Nooches Pooches. So, and I don't particularly advertise besides my own social media presence and the podcast that we do, and and just obviously people recommending. Word of mouth is basically the only way that I
no,
get work. So I think, to answer your question, a lot of people are recommending me through their friends. Hey, you should call Panos. This guy helped me with my dog, blah, blah, blah. And having a social media presence means that now you got an active catalog where then someone goes, oh, let me just look it up. And then they got a bunch of videos of me actively showing it, talking to the camera, and just,
yeah,
basically giving some free education. So through that process, it kind of shows, all right, cool. Well, then maybe I will go ahead with him rather than like another dog training page that just has photos of dogs. I don't
dogs.
think really sells anything except for the fact that you like cute photos of dogs. And like, if you're going to have a presence, I think you should be utilizing that. But I totally understand people don't like speaking to a microphone, speaking to a camera. They feel awkward. But but the job is talking. You're a professional talker. You're a coach. You're not
Yeah,
just training dogs, but you're teaching people. So you got to have that confidence, whether you feel awkward or not. Everyone feels awkward. Even right now, when I speak to this, I don't feel. I feel no. I wouldn't say awkward. I've done a lot of time speaking to the camera. It's just that I always have things to improve. I
Yeah,
always want it to be, deliverable, and me not saying if I don't know what to say, comfortable silences. These are little things that people struggle with when they're talking to a camera. So I don't know if that's answered your question, but I think having that connection, and of course I attend a lot of seminars and keep up to date with with my closer knit community of dog trainers, so that social media has kept us together, where before it would have been we had to physically would have had to meet up, where at least now we're seeing each other's stuff, we're commenting, DMing each other, asking any questions, getting on the phone. So I think the social media does kind of has a bit of a glue of keeping us together a little bit. If
I
that
do.
answers your question.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree with that. I also agree with the part that you said that with dog training, it helps your speech, which I think is crucial for life. When I actually started training dogs, I'm working in this dog training facility, board and trained. At the end of the 2 weeks, we do a debrief. We tell the owners what they have to do with their dog when he gets home. And the first debriefs, they were horrible. They were like I couldn't speak. I wasn't sure what I was doing because of the it was like a pressure of people judging me and me saying the incorrect information.
Hmm.
But with practice, you start gaining confidence, and that translated to other parts of my life. So it was like really interesting.
How long have you been working at that board and train facility?
I'm going to my third year now.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, but I'm like in the same position as you were when you were 21, which is I think I'm ready to move on and start doing my own stuff, and that's one of the reasons
Yeah,
what I'm doing.
nice. What's holding you back?
I would say fear more than anything else. Just the fear of not being able to make it, fear of not being as good as I think I am, which I'm not saying I'm the best dog trainer. I feel I'm good at it. Obviously, I have a lot of room to improve. I'm very young, but I think it's the fear of not reaching the best version of myself.
Hmm. Yeah, look, I think any advice like for you or even anyone else out there, that it's obviously, as I mentioned before, it's harder if you have rent to pay and bills to cover and all that sort of stuff, and then just like, hey, I'm just gonna like see how this goes.
Yeah,
Obviously, that could be quite challenging. But in terms of like making it and success and all those sort of words, like they're so big and they're also like super not clear about like what that even means. I would say, and I say this about dog training as well, in particular while we're at group classes, don't compare. Like if you're there standing there and your dog's acting a certain way, and the other dog over there is like doing the things that's correct in that particular situation, don't compare your dog to how that dog is over there. You compare your dog to how you were last week or yesterday. Like, are you getting better than yourself? So compare you to how you were yesterday, and that's the only way that you can even measure any success and
yeah,
moving in any direction to make it. And I think, if and I had that realization years ago when I first started. I'm like, how much do I charge? And I was like, I don't even have no idea. So most people didn't even have their price on their website. So I had to like call up, pretend to be somebody else. Oh, I've got a German Shepherd and he's blah blah blah, just so I can get a price from these people. And then after the third phone call, I'm like, you know what? Screw this. Sucks. It sucks because I just had to like pretend to be someone that I'm not, and it was so awkward, and it was such like a lengthy process. And I thought, who cares what they charge? How about I just be in competition with myself, find out what I'm worth, and then move accordingly. I just felt like if I just did it that way rather than comparing to what other people, some people charging 600 an hour and other people charging $100 an hour. And I'm like, there was such a big variety of differences
yeah,
that I thought some people are frauds and other people are probably being modest. And this is 10 years ago. So $50 an hour would probably be more like $80 an hour now.
no,
So
yeah,
there was like I started like that was where I started, $50 an hour, and then I moved up every year. I just made increases and I just built it up. And another thing that I had a realization for being a young trainer is I charged so much less than a lot of other trainers, but in my perspective, I was able to gain so much more experience because I was charging less. I was filling up my calendar. I was getting 4 or 5 dogs a day, 20 dogs a week, and just pumping dogs all day, every day, so that
Yeah.
I was getting better rather than charging an exorbitant amount or even double what I was and then getting less dogs. So I just thought that was um, my logic, and now I've been able to get so much more momentum within the skill, not just within every different type of dog, but every different type of person, but then also every combination of person and dog, and and I think that's where the art is. It's about educating the person so that the person knows what the dog needs to do. You need to be sharp and skilled enough so you understand the dog training process, but enough that you can get it from your brain and into your mouth and then out into their ears and into their hands. So
Yeah.
that's and the only way to do that is by getting lots of repetitions. But then how do you get lots of repetitions if you can't afford to do that while trying to make a living? So like it's all just very a bit of a juggle at the beginning. But if you had an opportunity where, all right, cool, these 2 days a week can just almost cover my rent only. But then that means I have to hustle the rest. So at least you got something to I won't be fully dry, but if I fail, I'll just be hungry a little bit. But then it kind of gives you the motivation where to go, well, let's do the hustle. So, that fear of failure happens for me too. I've got heaps of other things that I need to do, and it's my fear that holds me back. And fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. What's going to happen? Like, what happens?
That's true. It's the pressure that you put to yourself.
Yeah.
That's what fear is. Because if you think about it, it's nothing. It does Nothing's gonna happen. Like life continues.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I'm trying to keep in mind. That even if I make it, if I don't make it, it's still like
Yeah.
the same
Well,
thing.
on that, and I think now I'm waking up a bit more. When you asked me about regrets before, and I'm trying to think of a regret, I kind of try to live with living with no regrets. Like I don't really have regrets. Like maybe there were certain things that I'm like, I wish I didn't do that, but every single thing that's happened has made the next thought and the next thought, and I'm pretty happy with who I am and where I am, what I am, and who I am. So like if I had any regrets, then that means that I wouldn't be happy with who I am
I see.
because I would wish that this didn't happen. But even the worst things that happen to you kind of mold you and grow you. Even if you make a ridiculous, irresponsible decision and act completely inappropriately, if you have enough awareness to be like, wow, I really dropped the ball and I really fucked up. I'm not letting that happen again. Actually, on the on the other side of your greatest suffering is your greatest virtue. So you have to honor the bad things because they are the gateway to the best things. You know what I mean?
I see.
And I think that's why I like to answer the thing, and I love the war cry of and I'm pretty sure it's the Lakota people where they say Hokahea, which is like today's a good day to die, and they mean not like to I want to die today. It's that if I was to die today, I could die with no regrets. It's all good today. We can die.
I see. I see. That's cool. I see what you're saying.
And I think that's how so it's hard. I'm like, oh, what regret? Like, yeah, maybe I could, but like they were all learning lessons. Like when I was like with Ace, when he would pull on the leash, heaps inappropriate. I'd be like, stop, and I'd just smack him on the ass. Like, stop pulling on the leash. Now, my timing was great, but my intensity was way off. And it's
Yeah.
nothing that a lot of people wouldn't want to admit on the open air to like the whole entire world. But like that's just what happened. That's what I did. Now, if I regretted that, then I wouldn't have seen the power of not being so intense, so intimidating, because I didn't want to scare him. I was only frustrated. I wasn't like, I'm going to show you who's boss. I'm going to be
Yeah.
like, hey, dude, that really sucks, and I need you to stop it. Now, he actually understood it because it wasn't like I did it for a whole entire year. I did it enough for him to like until he stopped doing the behavior. But again, I was not approaching it from a dog training perspective. I was approaching it just as a guy with a dog.
Yeah.
So I learned that I had good timing because it was clear for him of what he needed to avoid, but it was certainly not a thing that I would recommend and not a thing that I would like to do again. If I think about it, yes, I do regret that of like how he felt, but I don't know if I regret the action so much because I can talk about it today and draw lessons from it so that I could be better tomorrow. So it's hard. It's kind of,
It's
again, I'm
about
not trying to like avoid the question, but it's, and also some people may disagree to be like, man, what a piece of shit. I'm like, nah, but like I want to be better. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So you got to look at your darkness and be like, well, that's all very like not nice stuff. Now, some people would say, why don't you just leave the house with treats and then just reward him every time? Yeah, but I didn't think like that when I was 18. It just was not in my wheelhouse to be like, maybe I should leave the house with some food and give it to him. Like, I just didn't think like that.
Yeah.
And that's just where I was. But that's that. Yeah.
Yeah, with dog training, patience is the most important thing. Going back to
Yeah.
dog training now, patience is the most important thing. I had this English creamer. I trained this English creamer. He was maybe 16 weeks old. He was a puppy. And he has been the dog that has gotten on my nerve. And not because he wanted to, it's
Hmm.
because he wasn't sure how to do it. And I would get frustrated and he would get scared and he would shut down. So it was like, it was horrible. And so I would always get frustrated with this dog until I saw a clip about, I don't remember who, but it was about building a relationship with a dog instead of just training him. And when I make that connection, I went, trained the English Creamer, but I started playing with him instead of training him. Start playing
Yeah.
with him, start making it fun. And that's when I hit that. I think I felt how I grew as a dog trainer in that moment because a dog started to love it, to love me, like started to listen
Yes.
to listen to what I'm saying. And I was like, yeah, patience here is key more than anything else.
100%. And for a young person to have those lessons, especially like at the age that I was, I think it was the greatest teacher. Dogs. The reason why I'm really passionate about what I do is not necessarily because of the dog training process so much, even though I do really enjoy it and I am pretty into it. I would say it's because dogs teach us while we're teaching them. And I got into the whole thing, and of course, I gave you a little bit of my origin. It was that the dog made me better. And because the dog made me better, then I need to learn how to make dogs better so that I can go around and teach people how to make their dog better so they can see the opportunity what their dog's making them better. And my saying is, I teach dogs to live in our society, but dogs teach us to live in the now.
Yeah,
So that's that kind of, it goes back and forth. But of course, you need to get really good at the dog training so that people can call you so you can go there and offer that sort of perspective. And I don't force that perspective. I don't go there ever even mentioning it. But through the process, I'm like, listen, you have to be more patient for the dog to be able to get it. Yes, you need to build a bit of a relationship. How about you play the game? Play a game so that when you call him at the beach, he comes to you. And when he comes to you, you play the game so that you're the valuable thing, not everything else. And then through that, you're like, holy shit, maybe I need to do that with my children, because if I can play with them more and have more good times, then they won't, like, they want to hang out with me. Because I heard some billionaire was interviewed and he said, and who was asked, like, how do you measure success? Like, I measure success by when my children are 30 and they decide that they want to hang out with me. That's how we measure success. So if going from that perspective of with your dog, well, if you're at the beach and your dog disappears, it's because he doesn't see you that valuable. But if you're that valuable, why would he run away from you? So all of my dogs, even like when I was young, they never ran away from me because there was nothing to run away from, because I am the thing. I was always that thing to them. And I
yeah,
always had that relationship in a way. Yeah, I was training my dog even, and I'm pretty sure we did this with Rocky and then with Ace. Me and my mate would walk down the park, and every time we'd kick the soccer ball, he would catch it straight away, and we'd like lose it at him. You're like, hey, what's wrong with you, bro? Stop catching the ball so quickly. I want to kick it so you can chase it. So I'm like, hey, stop. Instead of telling him off, how about we grab the ball, run around in a circle? As I'm running in a circle, he's chasing the ball, and then I can kick it. So then at least he's behind me when I can kick it. And then I did that enough where that I would just point. And of course, it's a Kelpie too. So he just like starts running around me. And as he ran around me, I'd kick the ball. So then I'd say, hey, go around me. He'd run around, I kick the ball around. And that became the beginning of around command. So I was training him with no understanding of
yeah,
operant conditioning and, reward markers and all that sort of shit. I had zero understanding. But of course, it just came natural to be like, well, instead of just kicking the ball in different directions, how about we tell the dog to run around so we can kick the ball? So that mind was active even then. So that's where like there was a bit of that natural. And of course, I think a lot of people get into dog training because they had the reactive dog. The dog was reactive. So because the dog was reactive, the dog needed a dog trainer. So then now they're seeing a dog trainer. Now they're like, wow, this process is awesome. I want to be a dog trainer.
I see.
That's a very typical story of most or a lot of people, where obviously mine was not really that. My dogs were awesome, actually. And they were really well behaved. And I think because of that is what got me into it. So Yeah.
I do agree. I wanted to go back to the part of that relationship and talk about. I think people get dogs because of more of companionship, and they don't focus too much on the relationship. I may be confusing the points there, but what I mean by that is that people get a dog for him to lay down on their sofa. I think that's what most people do to get their dogs. They're not focusing on build on making themselves the most valuable thing to the dog. And that's
Yeah.
why when they go to the beach, the dog runs away because they're boring. They don't do anything the entire day. They just sit in the sofa and pet the dog. The
Hmm.
dog, in my opinion, the dog is not just to stay at home and be pet. I think a
Yeah.
dog needs a purpose, needs work, so he knows that. So he becomes fulfilled, and that's where I think people are mistaken when they get a dog. It's not just for companionship; it's to do something else.
Yeah. I think you're spot on. Where most people, what can I say? Most people, some people
Some
are
people,
being selfish and saying, "Hey, I want that connection." But you only get that like when people say, "Oh, like you mean I have to walk and train him every day?" And they're all confused, and I'm like, and I say, "Isn't that the point of getting a dog?" Like I'm confused. I thought we
yeah,
get a dog so we can do this stuff. Like I thought that's what the point of it was. Because if you want something to pet, you should have just got a cat. Um, because you don't train the cat, you just hang out with the cat. The cat just does its own thing. Cats are pretty cool too. I've got a cat. Cats are awesome. They serve their purpose. The dog, yeah, is more personable, more like, hey, what are we doing? But yeah, dogs were designed to do a job, to have a purpose, to fulfill some sort of requirement. They were more assets to us than they were companions. It just happened to be that they became good companions after they did the work, so to speak. And then we got hooked on the idea of just like white rice, right? It's like, oh, rice is so good, but that husk sucks. Just make it white rice. It's like if you're gonna eat rice, you should probably eat the whole entire thing so that your body knows what it is. Otherwise, we're not gonna get into nutrition. But we refine things so much just so we can get the goodness, and and then we like want to discard all the other like stuff. Um, and the other stuff is what makes the whole thing good. Otherwise, now you're just gonna like you're like if you can't just party with your friends but not be willing to have a conversation about something that they're struggling with. Like if they need a chat or intervention to be like, hey dude, you're kind of fucking around now and you need to pull yourself in. Like if you're not having that observation, that relationship, and you only want to do the fun stuff, then you're not going to have a deep relationships, and then your friend's not going to be around there when you need the help. And that's what one of the big points of having a friend is. And just like having the dog is that, well, first of all, you want the dog to live. So if you don't train him and you let him run off, then he dies potentially, or gets badly injured. So that's a reality of having no recall. But more importantly, is through the action of training and playing and doing the things is where you get the companionship. And I think that's the biggest thing that you need to kind of educate people. And of course, we want a dog to be able to rest on the couch after being tired and fulfilled, not because he hates his life.
yeah, of course, yes. So my question is, when you have clients that they say they don't have the time to train the dog or don't have the time to take him out for a walk, or they just don't care of their dog walking in the not the perfect position but a proper walk on the leash, what do you tell them?
I'm like, oh, what do you want me to say? I'm like, all right, cool.
Hmm. Okay.
I'll say it literally like that to them. Now, obviously, I'm not going to leave it at that here, but they're like, I'm like, okay, well, like, then don't complain. Like, and what am I doing here then? Like, I'm confused. And I'll say that to him, like, I'm pretty confused. What are you saying? You hate it when the dog pulls, but then you let him do whatever. Like, I don't know what that means. Or or if they say, Panos, we're busy. I'm like, yeah, I'm busy too. And I walk my dogs at 10:30 at night because I'm time poor. So like, just suck it up and do it. Be disciplined. Otherwise, you can rehome the dog.
Yeah,
Like, if you're not walking the dog, training the dog, doing anything with the dog, and the dog's chewing your yard, destroying everything, barking all night, so you don't like the dog, you don't want to do the things for the dog. I'm like, just get rid of the dog then. Like, I can't do that to my dog. I'm like, well, then do the right thing then. Can't complain about back pain and be overweight.
I see.
Like, that just kills my life. Like, oh,
Yeah,
I feel like shit. My back's sore, my knee's sore. And I'm like, dude, you're fat. And that's not a bad thing in terms of not fat shaming you, but but that's the reason why. Now, I'm not going to tell you something that you want to hear, like maybe you should take a Panadol and like just rest. I would say maybe you should like incrementally start, changing the way you do things so that you can have
Feel
the
better.
results that you want. It's and I believe maybe it's just the things that I watch, but I think we're going to turn. I think a lot of people, the majority of people, like I think it was 70% of Australians are overweight. 3 out of 5 marriages are failing. It's like, what the hell? They're the worst
Yeah,
statistic I've ever heard in my life. Just those two alone is a bad statistic. So for that to change, individuals need to change. And I think we are starting to change. I just think we're going through that process society wise. We're getting
yeah,
to the point where we were extreme right. Now we're going extreme left. And I think we're kind of like becoming more like whether we go, hopefully we don't go another extreme to the right again. We just stay in the middle a little bit more, be a bit more wise, and hopefully that lasts a while. Um, but the way that society has been molded in a way dribbles down into the way that we train our dogs. Like, don't use pressure on a collar. Don't say no to the dog. Punishment doesn't work. All those things are coming down from ideology of, from the political realm, the wokeism, and
yeah,
wokeism drip feeding into dog training, into everyday life in so many ways that we're not going to discuss on the podcast today.
yeah, of course.
But I'm sure your listeners know what I'm talking about. Again, whether you agree or not, like it is what it is. That's my opinion. Is that we become so soft that you're like, hey, I can't. If I said to you, I think you're a little bit overweight, like apparently that's now going to be the worst thing you could say to somebody. Where if that was said and they'd be like, yeah, I think I need to make some changes. I'm like, just little changes, and I'm here to support you. But like, it's just not good to be overweight. It's not good to have a dog that barks all day and you don't do anything about it. So I guess that's what my point is that it's that negligence. It's like, can somebody just fix my pain? And I
Yeah,
would say, no, I think you just need to have more discipline. Like that Jocko Willing statement, discipline equals freedom. You want freedom? Well, you got to be disciplined. They don't come. Um, and another thing that will probably be another topic on my podcast is patience and discipline is not an adjective. It's a verb. It's what you do. It's not about who you are. It's not like I'm patient and I'm disciplined. That makes no sense. Like patience is dealing with the frustrations and still being a kind, compassionate, and logical person while you're being frustrated. That's the point of patience. Just like bravery means that you have to be scared for you to be brave. There is no bravery without fear. You have to do the thing. And then if you went, hey, I quit my job yesterday and now I'm all in on my dog training business, and I'll be like, that's brave, bro, because I know you were scared to do it. And I know you are scared to do it, but you're doing it despite the fear. And so his discipline is like, I really can't be bothered and I don't want no regrets. And the pain of discipline or the pain of regret far outweighs the pain of discipline. Do the thing now so you don't have to suffer later.
yeah.
Do the walk. And how bad is it to train a dog and to walk him? It's fun. I don't get like it's not. So you have to, if I go, you have to train the dog and this is how we're going to do it, and we make it all very boring and shit, then no one's going to want to do it.
Yeah, of course. That makes
But
so much sense.
and how animated are you and how much can you make somebody want them to do it? Like I have to manipulate and condition you to be like, well, you may feel those same, like those examples I gave, maybe that hits home somewhere inside of you. And then from there you have to be that will influence and motivate you in a way to then go, well, I'll make small changes. If I can make changes in my dog and make changes in his diet, maybe I can make changes in my diet. And you know what? Panos is all full of energy, fucking new tonic fully kicked in. But like I'm generally buzzing all day, regardless of caffeine or not. Is that I've got that energy because I bring it firstly for me personally. I bring it from the source wherever it is. I try to bring it in, but I also bring it in because like I eat clean. I try to move my body regularly. I try to be strong. Try to tend to all my responsibilities, and most of the time, just like most functioning people, have all this anxiety about all these things need to be done, and if they're not done, then everything's shit. So let's get them all done. When you get it done, and I think Chris Williamson said it awesome the other day on Joe Rogan. He said there's three versions of Chris. Let's say there's three versions of Panos. There's serotonin Panos, dopamine Panos, and cortisol Panos. And I thought, oh, that's so cool. I always thought about dopamine and serotonin me, but I never thought about cortisol me, like the stress feeling. Like
Yeah,
I hate doing my admin, I hate doing the Instagram. I actually don't like doing it. I just think it's time consuming. It's at the end of the night because I don't do it in the middle of the day because I'm working all day. So then I come home, I've got to be with my family, but other things need to be done. So I get it done just so I can remove that dodgy feeling, right?
Yes.
But there is a feeling of that, there's a feeling of this is really stressful. My back's all cramped up, but that's
You.
just the version of me where you have
Yeah.
serotonin, Panos, where like, I've just got out of the sauna, done a mad stretch session, and I'm going for a walk with the dogs with some friends and my missus and my kid. Whew, feel good. But then you have dopamine panels going, nothing's ever good enough, got to keep going, go, 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 go. And that's how we manage dogs. Know how, like, we want them to be in serotonin, level of dog. But if you don't know how to fulfill their needs, and they when they start, getting triggered by things, digging, barking, carrying on. So my point there is that that's like pretty deep. Like I don't go that deep session one on my clients, otherwise I'd freak them out and scare them away. But the point there is that if I can teach you the why and all the mechanisms of what's happening, and you now know why we have to do it, the how and the what is almost like, so how do I do that? I'm like, let me show you. Oh, it's so fun. And anyway, the how and the what I've explained on the podcast so many times, and I've given it all away for free, but I've got to show you how to connect it together. And that's where trainers are there to be, to go, hey, look, there's so many resources out there. 75% of it's bullshit because there's a lot of people spreading propaganda, and they're illegitimate. They haven't had enough experience. They're telling you stuff because it's emotionally, it sounds good, but the truth is, this is my way of doing it. So let's go down that rabbit hole, and let's go down that rabbit hole together, just so we can hit your goals. It may be just we've gone 2 levels deep. The dog doesn't jump, dig, and doesn't pull on the leash anymore. Success. You're happy with your dog? Your dog's getting out often. You enjoy the walk. And then you're like, or another client, dog's lunging and trying to bite other dogs. And we fix that. We address it. A couple of months go by, and he's at group class, and he's like, I want my sit more crisp. I want it, when I say sit, I want him to sit within that 1 second. And I'm like, yeah. So like, from the dog couldn't be controlled around other dogs, and now going, I want his obedience to be better because I see how that guy's doing it over there, and I can see how you do it with your dog, and I just want him to do it. And I'm like, well, let's I'll show you how we can work towards that, because he's got a blue heeler. He's a cattle dog. The dog needs to be worked.
Work. Yeah.
So your work happens every day. It's 3 to 5 minutes of sessions a day, 3 to 5 minute sessions, 3 to 5 times. Go out for a bit of a walk, include him in the house, establish some boundaries. And the dog's like, cool. That's a good minimum to be. It's a good place to start. And if we can achieve that, then I think, I don't think it's all that much work. It's just that people get overwhelmed with all the other crap they have to do. And most people do a lot of things. Most people waste a lot of time doing stupid shit. And also, they don't have a reason why. Like, if their why isn't there, no one does anything. That's why I don't go up to people and say, I can help train your dog. That looks like an annoying behavior. They're like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Random.
Yeah. If you do that here, you're gonna get weird faces. You're gonna be.
Yeah. They're like, get out of here. But I just don't think what does that even do? That doesn't do anything. But if you go, hey, I need help, and I'm like, cool, I can help you. But the price is you got to give me some money and some of your time and commitment. And if you can do that, give me some of those important resources, and I'll give you the resources so that your life becomes better. And I think that's another thing. If you're too cheap, you just get a bunch of like non-committed clients. The more, and I don't want you to be super expensive, but the more of the like just above average you
Above.
charge, you get more committed clients going, hey, look, I'm going to put this money up front. And the money's for them is more like, I tell them, it's like more of like, I'm going to pledge my allegiance to this situation. And
Yeah.
it's like, and this is $900 for 3 sessions. So let's make, and that's Australian just for listeners. And let's make, and after 3 sessions, most of the time it's like, wow. Now, if you look at that over a lifetime of a dog, over 9 years, that's $100 a year. And your dog does all this cool shit. So when you can merge all of those motivations together, people are like, I can't afford it, or I've spent the money. You're like, what motivates a person? And today we've spoken more about people than dogs, but like, we're people trainers. Dogs
Yeah.
are dogs, man. That's one skill. The next skill, and the skill that you're going to propel yourself into, because you're going to stop training dogs all day, every day, and you're going to be going to people's houses, and you're going to envision that you can have your little bag, do all that stuff, because that's what you want to be, and that's where it's at. Let's educate people to train their dogs. So with that in mind, you have to be personable, energetic, got to be entertaining, but you got to be like, hey, I don't like that. And then you got to be yourself as well. Like I tell people, session 3, I'm like, today's more like I'm your brother telling you stuff. So I'm going to be like, what the fuck is that? I don't like that. Where session 1, if I say that, they're like, you're super
Whoa.
rude and I don't like it. But
Yeah.
again, I don't know, Australia, America, maybe we have a little bit of a difference in that banter, but you just have to adapt. You may go to a house where you're like, there is no putting it on you because you're so sensitive that if I even touch you, I may, you know, crumble down your house of cards. So some people that are a bit more sensitive, and I'll be like, session 3, be like, what do you reckon that does? And they're like, because some people are more mental, some people want to be told. You've got to have those people skills. And then, of course, as I said before, the combination of different people and their dogs is like that's the skill, because you have a 35-year-old single mum with a staffy or with a cavoodle. It's a whole different situation. So, what language do you use in those combinations? Different dogs, and that's where the skill's at.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree that the dog training part is easy. We help the owners communicate with their dog in a way to say it, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what we actually teach them. We are teaching them their body language, what they have to do in certain situations. So I would agree with everything you just said, as well that with people skills.
Yeah, and look, like we did put an episode out saying dog training is dog training. It's simple, but it's not easy.
Yes.
Now, look, in saying that, we had Boyd Hooper on as well on the podcast, and he said like a complete contradictory statement saying dog training is not simple and is super complex. And I totally agree there too. But with everything that's super complex, there's a simplicity to it.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about majority of training sessions, we're talking about obedience training and even like the entry level kind of behavior modification stuff. Like when you lay it out, it's like, oh yeah. But also, I don't know shit about a car, bro. I can pull up my bonnet and be like, I know where to put the water, and I know what a radiator looks like, and I know where the oil's at. Um, but like there is no fixing anything there. But I'm sure if I spend a little bit of time just learning about this connects to that, that makes that move. And again, I have a bit of a general understanding of the functions, but I couldn't point and say things. But if I spend a bit of time learning about it, I'm sure like, hey, look, all of this is very complicated. I can't make one of these from scratch on my own. However, it's all pretty, like it all makes sense. So it's complex, but it can be simple. But now to fix a car probably is not easy. So like the dog training concepts and the foundations are all there. And when I say, and people like look at me and they're like, Panos, that I feel like an idiot. That looked way too easy. That this seems too easy. And I say, well, that's a compliment to me because I've explained something complex in simple terms, and it's easy enough so you can apply it. But psychology is not easy. We're talking about dogs, they don't even speak to us. So we have
Yeah.
to observe and stuff. So when I made that episode, it was more like, don't overcomplicate it. It is simple, but it's not easy because it requires work and time and patience. And keeping your mind in the right mind, like keep yourself in the right mindset about the whole entire thing, and keeping you accountable for the next 6 to 12 months so you can at least make change.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. So before I let you go, I have two last questions. The first one, we didn't get through all the questions that I had written.
Yeah, you sent me a nice list. I'm like, wow, that could get me. I can go on stage and tell my life story there.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe for next time.
I try my best to make it as entertaining as possible and
You're a
as
champion.
meaningful as I want it to be. But I wanted to talk about pit bulls. I don't know what's the policy in Australia,
Hmm.
but obviously you have seen what's going on in UK, even here in United States. People are also like, well, they have a bad reputation already.
What's happened recently? Because I thought it was XL bullies that were
Well,
um,
XL pit bulls and XL bullies are getting
the
into the
same
same
thing.
category. Yeah,
Sure,
yeah. So that's why I'm
that's
saying
what you
both.
mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my question is, what's your opinion on the situation, and what do we have to do different?
Look, I'm not really well versed in current things that happen. I just like don't watch news and stuff for my own mental health. But then it takes me a little bit of time to hear about what's like actually happening. So if there's, I believe, if I just from my, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but currently I heard that there was a situation where somebody passed away because they were attacked by an XL bully. So now they want to make the XL bully a banned breed in the UK. Is that what you're
UK.
referring to?
Yes, and also here in the United States, there was a pit bull breeder that was killed by his own.
Oh yes, I did see that.
So
Okay, he didn't have
yeah,
like 16 in his yard or something.
there were a lot. There was a lot
Yeah.
of pit bulls in there.
So what do I think about? Well, first of all, pit bulls are an illegal breed in New South Wales anyway, so they're on the restricted breeding list. I know the restricted breed list. So if you do see a pit bull, it's like a Staffy cross Labrador,
I
or a
see.
boxer cross whatever. If you do see like the little red noses, so we call them Staffy crossels,
Okay.
and the reason why I'm bringing that up is like, what are you going to like now exterminate all the pit bulls now? All of a sudden they all disappear, and if they are a mix anyway, then they don't classify as a thing. So it's a very ridiculous thing to say. Let's ban a breed. I just don't like that. But when it comes in general about breed specific legislations and things like that, I sit on the fence not in terms of like what I believe, but I sit on the fence for perspective. On one side of it, I say the government can fuck off and don't tell anyone what to do in terms of how to and what dog to own. I just think that should just be people should be responsible enough to make the right decisions, which then requires adequate education, maybe some sort of, process, you know, you have to be qualified or maybe a course. I don't know. There has to be something that if I forgot, I don't know the word right now to keep the legality of everything under control. On the other side of the fence, I think, what does a random person need a hunting, breeding, fighting dog in their own hands? They have no, like, why you have an American Nikita? What is happening? Like, every single time I've seen Nikita, it's been in the wrong hands, and that dog's bitten multiple people, and I'm freaking out looking at it because he just wants to eat me. Majority of the times. A lot of the times I can get close to him and handle him and do things with him, but like the whole time I'm thinking the dog's just gonna like eat me. And so I just think that people are getting dogs for the ego of it. Yeah, I've got my pit bull. Look how cool he is. He's a savage killing dog. He's a fighting dog. So that it draws that ego to it. I think they're lovely, amazing animals. I think pitties are one of the are some of the nicest dogs that I've hung around. But of course, they have the potential and the tools to kill. So my conspiracy moment would be by 2050 in Australia anyway, we've removed anything that's over 30 kilos, maybe
Wow.
25 kilos. I reckon that will do something as radical as, why do all these people need hunting dogs, fighting dogs? Like, they took the guns off us, they took everything else off us. Why do we need anything else that empowers a household and also is a potential danger to the community? So that's one side of the fence. The other side
Yeah.
of the fence is, let's educate, let's create some sort of culture around it. Be like, if you're an entry level person, first time you've gotten a dog, maybe you don't have a business having certain type of breeds, but maybe you can start an entry level breed, or it could be like you got to do a course and get a license, just like a car, and every 2 years you got to kind of keep up to date with, like, I don't know. Do we have to police everybody, or do we have or do we have to remove all the dogs? How do we remove all the dogs? Do you mean kill all the dogs? And on top of that, we've had these dogs for eons. Like, without dogs and horses, we would not have made civilization. So now we're just going to remove all of our things that were part of our ancestry, which we've done a lot of anyway. So because people can't manage them now because someone wants to have 16, pit bulls in their yard, and then and not treat them correct. And you think those dogs were getting trained and walked every day? Like, obviously not.
Yeah.
And have they been bred appropriately? Have they been bred to be more on the dangerous side of their genetics? Have they been bred specifically to show that sort of aggression? So it's a tough conversation. I think there's so many things to consider. I think we put magnifying glasses on things too. Like, yeah, two things happen in the 8 billion people that live. And then that's why I don't really want to watch the news so much. Is like, it's you as soon as you turn it on, all you hear about is death and bad things, and so there's a lot of propaganda, and let's make dogs look worse than what they are. I think also people need to be more responsible and do the right thing by their community and by their dogs. So how do we make that happen? Do we force it by saying we're going to restrict certain breeds and we're going to punish you for owning them, or should we educate and try to create more culture and around? I don't know. it's a tough one. But I just don't see it going in the right direction. If they're talking about banning prong collars, then they ban the slip lead, then they'll ban the martingale collar, then they'll ban a flat collar. All right, cool. Now we have a harness. All right, cool. Harness is the only thing you're allowed to use. So how do you handle anything appropriately that's under, you know, over 50 kilos or
50
under
pounds.
50 kilos, over 30 kilos? How do you manage these dogs? So then the rate of the attacks, the mismanagement becomes higher, which then gives more leverage to saying, well, then why do we have German shepherds? Like, where's our sheep at? Do we man stopping people? Who needs a herd or even track for things? Um, why do we need a dog that was bred for bull baiting and for pig hunting, where no one's pig hunting anymore? So I get the perspective on both sides. I just think that offering those two perspectives allows us to come to more of a conclusion. And I don't know what the conclusion is or what the solution is either. What do you think?
I think that there's a lot of not misinformation but uneducated people, and I think obviously unethical breeders are taking the opportunity of making profits, of making the dog they want with the coat they want, because that's very popular here. People get the dog because of how they look. They have the
Yep.
moral coat. They look really cool, I would say. And I think people just get a dog to get a dog. They don't think about the responsibility, the time consume, how time consuming is having a dog. And if you want to be able to enjoy him to the fullest amount, it requires more time than you think. So I think there's a lot of uneducated people that are just getting a dog because the movies has a romanticized dog ownership.
I think dogs are like close to our heart because I guess we have had them around for so long in our
Yeah,
tribes and communities, for eons, thousands of years. So I think that there is something to it, and I think people do like when they get a dog. It's not like I'm going to have him purposely to sit in the corner and do nothing. They just don't,
of
as you
course.
said, they just don't realize that. Like you go to most people and be like, "Your dog has high prey drive," and they're like, "What's prey drive?" And it's like that's a huge problem. Like
Yes.
my dog, my pit bull hates the vacuum. No, he wants to eat it. Literally, he just sees the spinning wheels of it and just wants to chase it and grab it in his mouth and destroy it.
Yeah.
He likes it. Or when people say my dog really hates birds, he chases birds. I'm like, no, he likes birds. He wants, like, if someone goes hunting for elk and they get elk and then you eat that elk, be like, wow, Panos really hates elk. Like, chases them and kills them and eats them. It's like, no, dude, I want to eat it, bro. That's part of being a
Right.
predator.
Yeah.
Confusing that with aggression. Now, that doesn't make it any better. If those five dogs, those five adult pitties that killed that guy in the backyard, and I think the rest of them were puppies, they probably didn't do it out of fear or even to eat him. I think they just did it out of complete gameness. They were
Yeah.
just like, I'm going for him because I'm a little bit edgy today. Hey, I want him. No, I'm going to go for the clothes. And then they're now fighting over clothes, and one jumps up with the neck, and then now we just have this like drama where dogs are now wrestling over an
Yeah.
item, being a human being. So I don't know if that's worse than if a dog goes out a bit fearful and running around going, "Hey, I'm now loose and I'm scared. If you try to touch me, I'll kill you."
Yeah.
That's like that dog's being defensive. Some dogs like that don't want to have anything to do with anybody. Now, some dogs just like the thrill of getting into a fight and killing something. So,
Yeah.
so instead of looking at it as a breed, I would probably look at it as like an individual dog. But then again, like how are you going to police that with all the dogs that we have? It's kind of unrealistic. But how many people die in car accidents, fatal car accidents, like bad wreckages? We don't. No
Right.
one talks about we should ban red cars. Red cars are bad. Red
Yeah.
cars go faster.
I see what you're saying.
Statistically, maybe more red cars are in crashes. Who knows? But could I say that? And then now, if you have a red car, now you're an irresponsible person. I would say drive nicely and normally and don't be under the influence of anything when you're driving so that you can be clear and responsible to the community. So, like, if you treat the whole population like children, we will act like children. But if you gave us less rules and to make rules up for ourselves, I feel that we would be more responsible. But maybe that's just me being, trying to be positive thinking.
No, I do agree. I do. There was I talked to this other dog trainer 2 episodes ago, and she has I believe a pit bull, and what she says is I have to fulfill his needs. By fulfilling his needs, he's just like a balanced dog, and that's what I think you can do to solve all of your problems. Just fulfilling the needs of your dog will make your life much easier. But with
Mm-hmm.
that, but by just doing that, that requires a lot of time, and people are not, well, in my experience here, some people are not willing to put that time and effort.
For sure. I think some dogs were bred to be the behavior that we see on the news. That's
Mm,
what makes them compelling. It's like, hey, listen, I sell meth and I have a lot of money on this property. So if anyone jumps this fence, they die. So how do I get a dog that does that? And it's like, bro, I've got a dog that can do that because we've been breeding these dogs and they're killers, man. They're savages, man. No one can go near them. They only love one person. That's it. So they could, and and when I looked at that image, I have no idea about what happened in that situation and what the motive of why this guy has all these dogs. Is he just breeding them? But you don't take a kelpie and to do a pitty's job, and you don't take a pit bull to go herd some sheep. So, and even within bloodlines, there's certain bloodlines that just don't do the work as good. Like it's very complicated when you look into breeding and genetics and all that, and we're only breeding for male colored coats.
yeah,
It's like, so it doesn't matter about how the dog is healthy.
caves, nothing
Um,
like that. Yeah,
we don't care for his temperament. We care for his coat. And even show people, not even just gangsters and ghetto people doing that shit. We're talking about like people that are legitimate. We got papers for this German Shepherd. We love the Archie back. We love the dog that has health defects as one of their positive attributes. And by the way, he's got an overbite and he hates people. And yeah, his parents didn't like it and his grandparents didn't like it. And it's kind of likely that he probably won't either. So, how do we then get on top of breeding? And I'd say if it was an ideal situation, like you have to be a registered breeder to be breeding dogs, and there has to be like some sort of ethics and intentions that are true for creating the next generations of dogs. Like when I had Tyler Muto on my podcast, we're talking about bred dogs specifically for work. How about now we start breeding dogs specifically for what we need them for now? Leave all the working dogs and the hunting dogs and those dogs alone for their roles, and maybe that's like an orange dog, and people that live in the city that don't have orange jobs don't get an orange dog. They have the blue card, and that blue card means you get these type of dogs.
yeah,
And then maybe we can do it that way, where like if you live rural property and you've got all the things sorted, then maybe you can have this sort of dog. But this requirement means you must be rocking up to training, and then who's going to be in control of the training? Like everyone has to be trained to own a dog. What, the positive only people with the loudest voice, the ones that are most organized to get together and cause disruptions, or the balance trainers who are doing the hard work have no time for politics and bullshit because we're too busy training dogs because we get results. So, so then who now gets in power? Positive only people or the balance people? So again, yeah, I've created a division and us versus them sort of situation, but it matters
I agree.
because if we're talking about dealing with powerful dogs and we're going to refuse to use a slip leash at a bare minimum, it's a problem. And like
Yes,
not even just using the slip leash, but how to use it. Because if you don't use it correctly, you do all the things that you say you shouldn't do. Where keep the collar up high, use the pressure correctly, release it at the right time, educate with leash pressure and luring techniques and all that sort of stuff. That has to be like a normal thing. Just like learning how to drive a car, everyone knows how to do it. They're dangerous things.
I agree
I
with
know
that.
cars don't have a mind of their own yet. Um,
Well, now,
Soon,
yeah.
bloody
So,
Elon.
yeah. So my last question, and I will let you go. What's a message you have to the world?
Wow, a message to the world. I'll keep it for dogs, obviously. Um,
You can do either. It doesn't matter.
well, I think it all crosses over. I think after an hour and a bit, you got my vibe that I'm not going to geek out on just dog training because I know that the process is very human as well. But I would say everything that we've mentioned today in the podcast is that dogs are great teachers. They can teach us so many things about ourselves, and we have to step it up and become a certain thing so that they can be something. So if you want to leave your house, or at the end of the day while you sit on the couch thinking, have I been of service to my people, to my family, to my dog? And we'll call your dog as part of your people. Like, have I been a service to them? Because the more that you service those people appropriately, then it comes back. And if everyone was doing that, then world is nice and a bit more cooperation, and there's more clarity between people. So I think everything comes down to the individual. If you want to see changes around you, you got to make that change. So while you're teaching your dog how to live in your house and in the world, you need to learn how to be a good leader and how to be the best version of yourself. And compare yourself to how you were yesterday. Don't compare yourself to how someone else is today. So that's a Jordan Peterson quote, and I resonate deeply with that. And do the work and find the joy in any activity with your dog. You got to find it joyful and know that it's all goal orientated. So everything that we're doing now is affecting tomorrow and next year. So the more that you stick to the path, the more the things will come back to you, and that will help with even the dodgy situations of it's so sad to hear people die, old people die, and just ordinary people die from a dog attacking them. It's like one of my greatest fears. So it's sad, and I think everybody should be listening to content like this, or Life with Your Dog podcast. Our podcast offers a lot of insight as well. So I think if we can be the best that we can be, then I will see that we will just automatically be more responsible. So, and responsible dog ownership means that you've got to look after yourself and your dog. So yeah.
That's amazing.